Guys, if you thought the change on Snap was worse, wait until you hear this news. If you are in the United States of America and you are feeling sick, oh my days, man, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Because the Biden era actually did not have this provision, but Trump this week has now decided that medical bills will now be transferred somehow, or it will be somehow linked to credit card. And a lot of people have been furious and mad about this whole subject. But I don't want to dilute anything. I just want you to listen through, and then we'll come back and talk about it. Let's go.
Do you or does someone you love have medical debt? Well, Trump just helped get it back on your credit report. That's right, a Trump-appointed federal judge just reversed a Biden-era rule that removed medical debt from credit reporting. This affects roughly 15 million Americans. The rule didn't get rid of these people's debt, but it actually just changed how credit scores are calculated and removed medical debt from the equation, which canceled out essentially $50 million worth of medical debt from the credit reporting system. All thanks to Trump and this guy, federal judge Sean Jordan. I did a little bit of digging into Sean Jordan's history as a judge, and he's just as much of a dickhead as you would expect. In 2024, Jordan decided to block a Department of Labor overtime rule that would have extended overtime protections to 4 million workers. So yeah, if you're one of the 15 million Americans that Sean Jordan just fucked, your credit score is expected to drop by at least 20 points. Anyway, that guy, Sean Jordan, might want to hear from you. I don't know.
Today, the Trump administration overturned a Biden-era rule saying that medical debt would no longer show up on your credit bureau report. So during the end of the Biden presidency, they passed a ruling stating that all medical debt wouldn't hurt you in the chances you're trying to purchase a house or anything involving your credit score. Today, a judge overruled that and overturned, and now medical debt will resume showing on credit reports. I really don't understand why he would do something like this. Honestly, makes zero sense. The fact that this is something that genuinely gets in the way of U.S. citizens and Americans getting houses and finding places to live. What are your thoughts on this?
Do you have medical debt?
Well, if you do, a federal judge reversed a rule that would have removed the medical debt from credit reports.
A Biden-era rule would have removed medical debt from credit reports. This judge is saying that that was overreach by the government. Removing medical debt from consumer credit reports would have increased the credit scores of millions of people. At least 1 in 5 Americans have medical debt. Election on their records. I know I've had that on my records before. And we know that this problem disproportionately affects people of color. 28% of Black people and 22% of Latinos carry medical debt. So reversing this rule is a systemic way to keep people impoverished, keep people down, and keep people tied to agencies that limit economic advancement. This is a clear example of how white supremacy inundates our laws and the financial stability of the people who live in this country. With Medicaid being cut too, this is systemic oppression. This is white supremacy in action. It's not hidden, completely uncloaked, unhooded, right out in the open. So please tell me what happens when somebody has to go to the hospital and they don't have insurance, and then they're sold a credit card to pay for it, and then they can't pay it back, and now it's on their record. Then just add in all of the other intersections that could be relevant to that person. It's systemic oppression. It's systemic racism. It's systemic ableism. It's hatred.
Thanks to a federal judge in Texas, medical debt will be going back on credit reports. I am sorry, people, this is another bad news video. This is obviously really frustrating because this is years of advocacy work from a lot of great organizations, including $4. So what does this mean for you? Medical debt, if it goes unpaid, can impact your credit, which can impact your ability to get a loan, buy a house, get a car, all of the things. It does not make sense to penalize people for getting sick, for going to the hospital. Medical debt does not belong on credit reports. It is not an indicator if you are financially responsible. This will impact millions and millions of people negatively. It does not make sense. It is very frustrating. especially since a lot of this debt is hospital bills that would be eligible for financial assistance. So here's my plug for $4. If you have hospital bills, please reach out. We might be able to help eliminate those.
A Trump-appointed judge just gave a massive gift to the Trump administration and an equally massive fuck you to the rest of us by ruling that medical debt can once again show up on your credit report. Which means if you get cancer, need an ambulance, or have the audacity to give birth in this hellscape of a healthcare system, you don't just get slapped with a 6-figure bill, you get your life destroyed. And guess who asked for this? Republicans. The Trump administration literally joined the debt collector lobby to make this happen. They didn't fix healthcare. They didn't lower costs. They didn't stop surprise billing. They just made sure that getting sick now tanks your entire future. This isn't about credit worthiness. It's about punishing poor and working people for existing. And you know who gets hit the hardest? Black and brown families, single moms, immigrants, disabled folks, especially in red states where Republicans have already refused to expand Medicaid. Oh, and speaking of Medicaid, while they were nuking your credit score for going to the ER, Republicans also rammed through massive cuts to Medicaid funding in Trump's big, beautiful bill. That's fewer safety nets, higher medical bills, and now, thanks to this judge, a permanent financial scarlet letter for getting sick. They are engineering poverty on purpose. They are building walls around wealth and calling it freedom. Meanwhile, they have government-funded healthcare for life. Your tax dollars pay for it. And then they turn around and say that you don't deserve the same safety net. They'll wave flags, they'll quote the Bible, they'll scream about freedom. But when it's time to actually fight for their constituents, they side with the fucking debt collectors instead. So in my next video, I'll walk you through what to do if you're seeing medical debt pop up on your credit, including how to challenge it and what your rights are. Unfortunately, as a disabled woman who had 6 figures in medical debt by the time I was 19, I have a lot of experience in that. But in the meantime, if you're wondering why it feels impossible to get ahead, it's not you. It's the system. And they just made it worse on purpose.
So Trump just reversed the rule that our medical bills will go back on our credit report. Just as people are losing their Medicaid and Medicare. You know what this means, don't you? If you can't afford your medical bills due to high copays, high deductibles, no insurance, your credit report is fucked. And when you start getting healthy again, and you got a job, they can come garnish your damn wages. You know, I wouldn't have voted Democrat for shit in this election. But there was one thing that Biden did that I agreed with. And that was making that rule that those medical bills wouldn't be on your credit report. But now that they've made these changes, they can come after your life savings.
You know what? Let's make America great again. Oh, no. Let's America again. It's more like that. The political class is more detached from reality. They do not know how the local or the common citizens live. They don't know how they survive on this shit. It only started from cutting off funds to big corporations, laying off massive number of people, cutting off opportunities that people would have used in order to get employed, and also cutting off things like Medicaid. Now going to food stamps, giving lenders more power to access your data and denying you loans whenever you need. Now you cannot even do well when you have emergencies because you have now big bills in order to pay for that. I would just advise Americans to eat well so that they cannot get sick. But you know what? That is not even possible because groceries right now are skyrocketing. Look at the price of eggs. Look at the price of basic commodities like vegetables, organic foods. It's just through the roof. And there is no way a normal citizen can do that. It's no longer possible. It's like the lady said, they're really engineering poverty. In order to be powerful, drive poverty deep into your people so that they can worship you. And they always pull that religion card. freedom, patriotism, and things like that. They just want you to see that in their eyes and not in your eyes. It's gonna be hard for someone to live in America in the coming future, man. Oh, it's terrible. Each and every day, it's just worse and worse. The news coming in, not favoring the local citizen at all. Especially the people who voted for MAGA, these MAGA supporters. Is this what you voted for? It's already too late. The bed that you made is time to lie on. But anyways, let's continue listening to other people's opinion. And even then, there is a segment where Kamala Harris actually talked about this issue. As much as I myself cannot stand supporting Kamala Harris as the president of the United States, but she had a point. And I want you to listen through to the very end because you'll hear what she said. And people ignored that and went ahead to make America great again.
A federal judge came out with a ruling this last week that says medical debt can affect your credit score. Judge Sean Jordan for the Eastern District of Texas overturned a policy decision that would have excluded medical debt from your credit report. This overturns a policy championed by the Biden administration, with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau stating medical debt is a poor indicator on whether somebody will repay a loan. Medical debt, they argue, unlike other forms of debt, is due to unexpected illness, accidents, and insurance company denials rather than poor financial management. On top of this, a news article that came out today reveals prescription drug denials by insurance companies has gone up by 25% in just a 7-year period. So if you need medication and your insurance company says no, you may go into debt, which will in turn affect your credit score. Medical debt affects 1/3 of the population. It's the most common form of debt on Americans' credit report. 1/3 of you watching this right now continue to have your credit affected just because you got sick or had an injury. You have higher interest rates because you got sick. You won't get approved for a loan because you got sick. You can't refinance, get a mortgage, get a student loan, rent, get a car loan. Your insurance rates go up. You can't get a credit card, get a new phone plan, you pay more for utilities and internet. Employers can look at credit reports, so you can be denied a job or a promotion. Wealth gets harder to build. Retirement becomes a pipe dream. You can't rebuild credit because you cannot be trusted by financial institutions just because you got sick or had an injury. The Consumer Finance Protection Bureau fought very hard to protect you. And guess who just voted to cut their agency's budget in half so they stop fighting for you? Republicans. Could this ruling have turned out differently? Until 2024, yes. In June 2024, the current Supreme Court overturned Chevron, a 1984 landmark case which gave federal agencies more deference in decision-making. Overturning 40-year precedent in Chevron sent shockwaves through the legal world and has led to courts which skew more conservative and will for a generation to come, having more power over federal agencies, even if those agencies are headed by Democrats. Elections have consequences. I'm running as a fierce advocate for a human right to healthcare, to mental health care, to take on insurance companies. If we won't protect the health of our fellow Americans and Coloradans, what are we willing to fight for? Visit mindforco.com and elect a Colorado state representative in HD3 who will fight damn hard for your right to not fear medical care.
If you are one of the 15 million Americans dealing with almost $50 billion of medical debt, unfortunately, that debt is not going to be wiped off your credit report after all. That's because a federal judge in Texas just ruled late last week that the Biden administration's rule was not legal. So here's what's going on. I've been reporting since last June that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under the Biden administration found that medical debt was severely hurting the ability of average Americans to get a loan or qualify for a mortgage. At the time, the CFPB said studies proved that medical debt was not a good indicator of a borrower's ability to repay other debts. So they proposed this new medical debt rule, which prohibited lenders from using medical information in their lending decisions. It increased privacy protections for borrowers, and it eliminated the medical debt from the actual credit reports. Importantly, the rule did not eliminate the actual medical debt. It just eliminated the medical debt from the credit report so that credit scores of millions of Americans weren't negatively impacted by this medical debt. Well, that rule became final in January of this year, and almost immediately, credit bureaus and trade organizations sued, saying the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau under President Biden overstepped its authority by creating this rule and finalizing it in January of 2025.
A little concerned about how credit reporting agencies and the credit unions might be interpreting how they can use medical information based on that complaint they filed with the CFPB. I found myself reading the judge's opinion yesterday, and then I referenced the original complaint. I guess the judge was largely agreeing with the plaintiffs. And based on the filings, the groups, the party to this suit, seem to interpret the law as free use of medical information, whether coded or not, in making determinations for credit. A big portion of their argument was as long as the creditor isn't specifically requesting the medical information, that it doesn't matter if they get it coded or not. If they receive it, they can still use it in determining someone's loan or credit eligibility. It also had the inference that the credit reporting agencies might just be passing along bulk information data sets, which could potentially provide far more details than what would be necessary for any reasonable credit determination. The judge's opinion largely agrees with the plaintiffs and as far as the industry interpretation of the law goes. So if those practices they outlined are actual regular industry interpretation as of right now, then that's not a good thing. And it's really hard to tell if this was just regulatory opportunism or if it's something they're actually doing. But it's just like, wow. Really interesting to see what these national organizations for credit reporting agencies and credit unions apparently really want. Apparently that includes approve or deny loans based on people's medical conditions. Real cool, guys. For legal reasons, and to clarify, I'm not saying any of those things are happening for sure, but just based on how they were writing in their arguments, it's really not that far of a speculation to think that some of that is maybe going on. And if you don't want your words to come off that way to people, then maybe you should choose better words. And this is just my personal interpretation of their legal posture in the documents. And the interveners had a lot of similar thoughts based on their response arguments. So just, banks.
In their view, they said the rule was a violation of the Fair Credit Reporting Act of 1970. And a judge in Texas agreed. Writing in this 34-page ruling, the Fair Credit Reporting Act expressly allows creditors to obtain and use properly coded medical debt information in credit decisions, but the medical debt rule would prohibit them from doing so. As it now recognizes, the Bureau was powerless to promulgate such a rule that flouts a federal statute by functionally rewriting it. Now, it's important to know that congressional Republicans hated this rule when the Biden administration first announced it. But by the time the rule took effect, Trump was already in office, and Elon Musk's Doge team stepped in and basically dismantled the entire Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. While it's technically still around to this day, the president ordered the agency and those who are still working for it to stop all of their operations. So it's very unlikely that the Trump administration is going to appeal this ruling. So what does that mean for you if you have medical debt? Well, I reported over the summer back in 2022 that the three main credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, pledged to remove certain types of medical debt from credit reports. Now, not all, but some, and this is voluntary. Generally, all of the three agencies said paid medical debt does not appear on credit reports. Unpaid medical debt does not appear on your credit report for a year from the date of the original delinquency, and medical debt under $500 does not appear on your credit report. By the way, you should also check with your state because some states have their own laws regarding medical debt and how it can or cannot appear on your credit report.
Now we are on track to say that medical debt cannot be counted in your credit score.
Oh, my goodness. That's a big relief to a lot of people.
Huge issue. Your credit score, right, and that medical debt cannot be determined or taken into account when you are applying for credit.
A Trump-appointed judge in Texas just blocked a Biden-era rule that would have removed all medical debt from your credit report after pressure from the Trump administration and industry groups. The rule that just got reversed would have raised credit scores by about 20 points for millions of Americans. It also would have made it easier to get a home mortgage or get a car loan or just a fair shot at fixing your credit. But now, if you have over $500 of medical debt, that federal judge that was appointed by Donald Trump just said it can impact your credit report. As Vice President Kamala Harris helped push this rule out, she supported making it easier for people to recover so that way they're not punished for getting sick. And if you're someone who has over $500 in medical debt and didn't vote for Kamala Harris, I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly. I wanted you guys to listen to what Kamala Harris said there. She said that and people ignored that. And to me, I'm now thinking about it. I think Doge team actually did more harm than good, because if Elon Musk was actually an advocate to demolish consumer protection or rights, then he's not actually a good person. And that's why I was telling you initially in some of my videos in the past that Having a billionaire pretending that he is taking care of people's welfare is a really wrong move. It's just a mistake. It's just really bad. Billionaires are always for themselves and their cohorts or their comrades or colleagues, but not for the people. They just want where it will benefit them the most and where it will milk from their customers or from their consumers at the most. I don't think Elon Musk has good intentions for the people. I'll throw that out of the window. But anyway, the topic of today: medical debts featured in credit scores. Now they're saying that only those medical debts that are below 500 will not feature in credit scores, and those that are above, maybe after a year they will reflect. I really do think that is really bad, because imagine someone is facing an emergency. Should that mean that these people cannot benefit from other financial services, including even that medical services alone? It doesn't make sense. I think medical debts should be separated from any other debt. Let's say you have pending bills like mortgage or bank loans that you took for other purposes other than medical. Then that, I would say, that's fair enough. But for medical bills, no one chooses to be sick. No one chooses to have diseases like cancer. Even other people who are going to be affected the most are people like the veterans, the old people who cannot work anymore. And to sustain these high medical bills that present themselves, remember, morbidity is really dependent on age, is affected highly by age. The more one ages, the more morbid they are. That means they become sick oftenly, and their sickness needs regular visits to the doctor. And this regular visit to the doctor, you know how the US system is, just a simple sickness, you're paying thousands and thousands of dollars. You want to tell me a person who is needy, how can they afford to pay for that? And these are people who once the government were once very dependent on when they were paying taxes, and just to repay them with this, I really do think it's very unfair for them. For me, my opinion stands. Medical bills or medical debts should stay far away or should be separated from any other debts. And giving lenders power to access data like that is really sensitive. I really do think that the Biden era rule would actually be beneficial to people, where lenders would not be given power to access that, and they should just stick to those loans that I've talked about and not medical bills. But anyways guys, if you guys do think otherwise, please let me know. Don't be shy to share your opinions in the comment section down there below. Your thoughts would really help in opening up this discussion. Do it. Also, don't forget to check the original creators of these videos. Their usernames have been embedded in the Stitch videos as always. Go onto their TikToks, like and follow them for this channel. Make sure you smash a huge thumbs up. Consider subscribing, turn on post notifications so that you may not miss my next upload. And with that guys, let me meet you in the next one. Peace out.